passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Sherman Oaks High. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that we here at TV Pilot's License believe in positive affirmation, so repeat with us. You deserve a stone-cold hottie that could rock you all night long, and you won't have a panic attack during the turbulence on this flight.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. Boys, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing so well. We're going to Castle Fun Park to celebrate today's episode, Rich.
I might just go there anyways. This is the closest I've ever been to one of our locations.
Oh my gosh. Well, gentlemen, this week we are talking about the Netflix hit series Never Have I Ever. But before we dive too deep into this show and our inner monologues and inner narrators, Max, can you tell folks what this podcast is all about?
Here at Castle Fun Park in Sherman Oaks, we offer batting cages, 4 putt-putt miniature golf courses, and a full-scale arcade for all your adventure and family needs. Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, if they can be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
Remember to keep those TV Pilot's License pod tickets, because you can exchange those for a drone that will die within a week.
Rich, what is your question of the week?
So my question of the week, I'm actually sharing it with one of our listeners, Carly from Indiana. If a celeb was going to narrate your life, who would it be, or who would you want it to be? I guess those are two different questions. That's what would you want it to be?
I like that you're pitching it as who do you want and who are you stuck with?
Yeah, yeah.
Who is it most likely, and then who?
Yeah,
Max, who are you thinking?
I'm going Tom Hanks, specifically 80s to mid 90s, like comedy. Tom Hanks, no one plays like exasperated end of your rope,
it's
manic.
Forrest Gump.
No, not
No,
Forrest
it's Forrest Gump. You said
Forrest
90s
Gump.
comedy. You said 90s comedy. Forrest Gump.
Rich, there is nothing funny about Forrest Gump. But the way that he would have these like vocal inflections, the way he could throw his voice again to that high pitch, exasperated, I feel that would capture so much of my youth and the anxiety and the panic that I felt at all times. And it would have to be Tom.
Yeah, that's good. What about you,
So,
Jeff?
who do I want it to be? I want it to be Kristen Bell. I want it to be Gossip Girl. I want it to be a little bit of
I thought
sassy.
you were going Good Place.
Oh, no, I want it to be a little bit sassy, a little bit, mischievous. But who is it going to be? It's going to be Richard Kind. It's going to be Richard Kind, 100%, like, just complaining and, like, being like, and Jeff then realized he had to walk the dogs again for the 4th time that day. Like, it's not going to be fun and sexy and a little bit mischievous. It is going to be blunt and a gentleman that I love so dearly in his 60s to 70s who is just complaining the entire time. Rich, who is your inner narrator?
I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work, but I'm getting stuck with Mark Maron.
Oh my God.
But I want Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh. What?
R.I.P. But I want Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rich and Carly from Indiana, thank you so much for that question of the week and that in-flight question. If you want to submit your in-flight question to us, you can actually shoot us a text message at 213-290-1713. We also take voicemails, and you can reach out to us on all social media, wherever you follow us with those in-flights as well. With that being said, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit more about Never Have I Ever. And we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. The complicated life of a first-generation Indian-American teenage girl, inspired by Mindy Kaling's own childhood. So that is definitely what we watched. Minus maybe the Mindy Kaling of it all, but think, Max, you're going to tell us a little bit more about how Mindy Kaling inspired this show.
Today, we're talking about the pilot episode of Never Have I Ever, which originally aired on April 27th, 2020 on Netflix, and we're talking about the show's creators, Mindy Kaling and Lag Fisher a bit. Super fast Mindy Kaling rundown. She interns on the late night with Conan O'Brien during her time attending Dartmouth. After graduating, moves to New York City, writes, performs stand-up, becomes a critic starring with her New York Fringe Festival play Matt and Ben, a comedy imagining how Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote Good Will Hunting, with Kaling playing Affleck. Time magazine names Matt and Ben one of their top 10 theatrical events of the year in 2002. She lands a staff writing position on The Office in 2004 and serves as the only woman in its writer's room for season 1. She's since gone on to create The Mindy Project, Champions, the TV adaptation of Four Weddings and a Funeral, and The Sex Lives of College Girls. Superfast Lag Fisher rundown. She graduates from Columbia and spends 6 years writing for The Onion and Onion News Network. Lands a staff writing job on 30 Rock and is best known for penning the season 7 episode A Goon's Deed in a Weary World, which was named by Variety as one of the 25 best episodes of the decade on their 2019 list. Fisher serves as a writer and co-executive producer on The Mindy Project alongside Kaling, and as a writer and co-executive producer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Her latest project, The Four Seasons, was released earlier this year on Netflix. Back to Never Have I Ever. Kaling gets a 10-episode commitment from Netflix in 2019 for a semi-autobiographical series. Originally, the streamer was looking for a series set in the 80s or 90s to reflect Kaling's own childhood and follow the trends of sitcoms like Fresh Off the Boat and Everybody Hates Chris. Kaling chose instead to write something that could speak to kids now, and the show is set in the present day. It's not directly based on her childhood itself, but just based on her experiences as being a teenage South Asian woman navigating the perils of high school and life and society. In July 2019, Kaling finds her Devi after an open casting call was posted online with 15,000 hopeful girls submitting. The role went to Maitreyi Ramakrishnan and won as her acting debut. Today's pilot is directed by Tristan Shapiro, best known as a producer and director of 24 episodes of Community.
Bam.
Awesome.
2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Well, let's dive into this show, and let's dive into the cold open of this show, right? Because it starts off very much with the idea of we're starting in prayer with our main character, Devi. And why is this day different than any other day? It's the first day.
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
Oh.
And I think that I really am of the mindset that they do an excellent job of setting the stage of why Devi is not your normal sophomore high school attendee and has had a lot of shit happen over the past year. I'm curious for the two of you, what do you think of Devi at first blush and what she has gone through over the past year?
I love this intro to her as a protagonist. I think they do a fantastic job of setting up her worldview. I think her wants are super specific. I love that we combine this idea of Hindu prayer with phrases like "what's poppin'," calling herself your favorite Hindu girl in the San Fernando Valley. Even this idea of like ending a prayer with "thanks for considering, love you guys." Like this, just like, you know, peace out, prayers up kind of mentality. I think that she's so honed in even from the opening of this episode.
Yeah, it's a very clear protagonist arc here. You get to see an absolute ton of exposition. You already know that she's playing on her back foot after like understanding why she's going to be bullied. It very clearly sets up her desire or her supposed desire to find a boyfriend to like try to rehab her social image. After two things that are extremely not her fault and very much like a trauma for anyone going through school. We don't set up particularly what year this is, which I think is good. There's a lot of elements in this that make it pretty evergreen. And by adding John McEnroe, it makes it even more. And believe me, when this is the first show where I've ever read the script before I watched it. I read the pilot for this like a year and a half ago, and I was like, there's no way they really put John McEnroe as the narrator in this, right? Lo and
Mr.
behold.
Deeds, John McEnroe.
Yes, known from nothing else, Mr. Deeds, John McEnroe.
Yes. I mean, I think that let's talk about the John McEnroe of it all, right? Because I think when we open in, it very much seems like teen comedy drama, like comedy drama. there's going to be high school drama and all that. The moment I hear John McEnroe's voice and then John McEnroe introduces himself as John McEnroe, that's the moment for me where I'm like, oh, this is something very different.
Right.
And I have to commend this pilot because they do such a good job of saying like, hey, we'll get to why I'm here later. And they actually do a really good job of, wrapping it nicely with a ribbon and saying, okay, we're never going to talk about this again, but like, here we go.
So have either of you seen this before?
Yes.
No, I had only read it.
So this was first time for me, and I knew Johnny McEnroe was the narrator, but I thought it was like a Daniel Stern Wonder Years or like a Ron Howard Arrested Development where he's just narrating the series. Did not realize that he was narrating it as John McEnroe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no.
I don't think his voice career is going over that well.
So, I mean, for the two of you, I'm curious about, because this is a high school drama, right? This is presented to us as a high school drama, or the day in the life of a Indian American girl. And I guess one of the things that I'm curious about from the exposition perspective is how well do you think they set up the family perspective or the family dynamic for Devi? Because there's a lot of different stuff going on. It is not just mom, dad, we're in America. They're definitely thrown in the jokes of like, hey, we moved here in 2001 and it was September. And like, there's a lot of small jokes that are thrown in, but there are also a lot of bigger implications that they're throwing for us.
For our younger audience members who may not have understood the humor behind that joke, allow us to break.
So Pearl Harbor was.
But
to your question though, I really like how the family is used to build the world and paint this picture, and it sets up that everyone in their own way is dealing with this internal conflict of traditional versus modern. It's trying to fit in present day Sherman Oaks in Los Angeles, but also keeping cultural touchstones. It's Devi, not necessarily wanting to abide by all the traditions that her parents did, but also still something that ties her back to it. We touch very briefly on things like an arranged marriage for a cousin, but the cousin is also dealing with this notion of, I've come to America and I'm studying here and I don't necessarily want this for myself, but it doesn't become about that. It gives you a sense of scene painting without losing focus from this being about a sophomore girl's return to high school and an attempt to build a new identity for herself.
Yeah, and to actually take it back a little bit to the cold open, I think they did such a great job of using that prayer element to hide the fact that like we don't know if her legs function in that moment, and I just thought that was such a beautiful touch. But yeah, I mean, this is like. I think the addition of John McEnroe feels like what they're going for is this is going to be a relatable experience. This is not just for Indian American viewers. This is going to be for everybody. It's a really nice touch that they have her cousin Kamala living with them. This is a standard American nuclear family, and that's what this show is going to be treated as. And I think they did a great job with that.
Well, we can't talk about a high school drama
without John McEnroe.
Without talking about high school, right? And I want to talk a little bit about all the different characters that we meet at the high school, starting with the two closest friends of Devi. We have Fabiola and we have Eleanor. And when we meet these two characters, I think this is definitely a show where the character of Devi is written to be very funny, right?
Yes.
But then when you meet Fabiola and Eleanor, you're like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, it's almost like so extravagant that you're like, oh, cool. Like, this is the splash of color that this needs to make sure that our main character seems even slightly more grounded than everyone surrounding them. What did you two think about these two folks?
Well, you can easily boil down their narrative to two words. There's robotics team and drama club. It is just like Eleanor is going to be the drama club, like overly dramatic person. Fabiola is basically a robot in this show. This is clear as day. It is so easy to follow. You can kind of, this gets into like Max, what you talk about with like some of our sitcoms of like how do we get two characters mismatched in a room, just like all these characters interacting with each other, and that's what you want to see. It's like it's a core group, but you want to see each individual person talk to all the people.
Something that every single supporting character in this pilot has is amazing specifics in their worldviews and in the lines that they say, which I think in turn really makes you feel like they are passionate about like who they are and what grounds them and what drives them. From, Eleanor having this notion of like dressing sexy, being like a 1920s flapper girl outfit to, Devi's mom with her lines about like bringing shame upon birds and how she's not going to go to Rancho Cucamonga today. She just does not have time for it. And everyone's specificity that they bring defines them without needing to spend too much time. And so again, I keep saying this, you never lose focus of who this pilot is about despite the number of people we meet.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of like to just touch back on, for anyone who is a writer here, if you can boil down your character's wants or personality to 2 words of robotics team, drama club, heartthrob, nerd nemesis, like it's really easy to like start building off of that and let people understand more about the people like right off the top.
Well, Rich, I'm really glad you brought up the idea of boiling down your characters to 2 words, because I don't know if our audience knew this, but we actually have one of the actors on this show right here with us.
That's right.
Max, how was it playing Mr. Shapiro? I didn't know you could grow a goatee, first of all. And can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired the line, let's all say the F word, fascism? Because, my dear God, I thought you had, what a performance by you.
Did you guys,
the cool, hip, young teacher.
Did you film on scene in Sherman Oaks, or is this like in the studio?
Did you get to meet Mindy Kaling? Because, like, if you did, why isn't she on this episode?
God, Adam Shapiro as Mr. Shapiro just absolutely...
It would have been a hate crime if they changed his last name. crushes this and plays, I think, a couple of key elements. Plays character who was lifted out of Girls and placed in Los Angeles. Right, yep.
Yes.
Sets up divide between like older millennial and Gen Z, like trying to relate but unable to do so, kind of like when I wear crew socks instead of ankle socks with shorts. And just this idea of a cool teacher who's trying so hard to hold on to that coolness despite a ever-growing inability to relate. Also, shout out to Adam Shapiro for having a pretzel business here in Los Angeles called Shappy's Pretzel Company. They make damn good pretzels. Go find them around town if you can.
Sure.
Max, I'm just surprised they let you bring your own wardrobe for the day that you filmed, because, boy, I know you own that scarf.
Guys, you all know I cannot grow a goatee.
I don't know that. Also,
we've never seen you try.
This was part of our text message about this joke. Also, yeah, this is just like, it's so... I love this. I love Chris Perfetti in Abbott Elementary. This is such a specific character that nails it every single time. I'm positive there's something in AP Bio, that the character in AP Bio like this. Every single time. If you're going to shoot in school now, if you're going to shoot in a school, you have to have one teacher who tries to relate too hard. It's perfect joke fodder.
So I want to talk about one of the characters that we get probably the least of in this pilot. There's actually 2 of them that we get a very small amount of them, but we also understand what role they're going to play in this. Niecy Nash is in this pilot.
Oh my God.
And absolutely destroys as the psychiatrist, but also the Jaron Lewison, who plays Ben Gross, I think is a very important part of this pilot in setting the tone of, this is why Devi gets bullied by another nerd.
Right.
And like what that must be like. I mean, we could talk probably for an hour about Niecy Nash just in general. But
And you'll have to follow our other podcast, Nash Talk, to do it.
Nash in Nashville, where we just... But I'd love to hear from the two of you, Niecy Nash in this role as the advisor, as the muse almost. What did you think of it?
I want her to go off. I want to see the most Niecy Nash as a like child grief therapist possible. Like, I am obsessed with her. I fucking love her work. I think she's one of the funniest people out there. And once I saw her, I was like, I didn't know I needed another buy-in for this show, but here I am.
I like that you get a real like straight shooter who grounds Devi's impulses, and you have someone like, you know, Devi, whose personality can be all over the place at times, and her intrusive thoughts can take her into all these directions. And Niecy Nash plays this person who can just anchor her for a moment and can cut deep to like a different type of emotional level. And I think it's like a fun foil in a way, just in terms of like personality clashes that I'm certainly excited to see more of. I don't like, and I know that if it plays a bigger part, they probably have the ability to do it. But if it's just a scene every episode, every couple of episodes, I think it could be an effective way to drop that in and break from some of the like wackier plots of this show.
It's also an element of letting Davy talk to an adult who's going to be real with her, which I think is pretty nice. Like, because if you normally only see a character process grief on their own or with their family, and then it's like extra dramatic. You don't really talk about it all that in a way that's like building healthy connections to it or finding your way out of it. But having Niecy Nash as like the person who's going to be the consciousness of adulthood, of real adulthood, it almost feels a little bit like big mouthy in a way that's like, we're going to talk to you like you're an adult, even though you're a child.
So as much as Niecy Nash is this speaking to someone as an adult, even though they're a child, one of the things and one of the scenes I think is very unique in this pilot, because it seems like it's joke, right? Like there's a lot of jokes coming in all at once. And then there's this one almost semi-serious, if not very serious scene where we have this dream sequence where Debbie's father, or her late father, is watching tennis while Debbie is dreaming. And we learn more about the John McEnroe and maybe the spirit and why Debbie is how Debbie is. And for you two, did this scene seem out of place, or was it something that you thought maybe a palate cleanser that we needed towards the back end of this episode?
I think it's pretty smart in the sense that you forgive the narration for not being her dad. It's like, this is how her dad is going to communicate with her while also giving like a subjective experience, essentially for the viewers. It's an internal monologue. It is John McEnroe representing her father. But it's not like, forcing her father to be in it the whole time.
And we get the why of John McEnroe too. We get like what it is about him, and it's that thing of it's not McEnroe as we know him as a pop culture figure, as the hothead and the tantrums on the court. It's the things about his game and the things about his drive and want for success. That's what her father sees in him as an aspirational figure. So it's like showing that, people are not skin deep. There is an element that he draws inspiration from in McEnroe, and that we could use Johnny Mac as that voice of reason who could pass it along as well, who could help someone see that things aren't just skin deep as well.
So I want to talk about this final couple beats of this episode, right? What we end on, and we end on this idea of Debbie really taking control of her own destiny, taking life in her own hands, not taking no as an answer, to a wild scene with this crush of this boy named Paxton, who is in her class, who she knows way too much about.
Way too much, and has the personality of like a fucking grocery bag.
And you know what? To all my grocery bag boys, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
We just came up with a name for our listeners.
Yeah,
whether you're
fandom.
paper or plastic, you know.
Yeah. You know what? If you're paper, that's cool. If you're plastic, that's great. If you're a reusable, we love that for you.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is, like, the role of Paxton in this pilot is, hey, you're a 25-year-old and supposedly playing a 17-year-old. Like, come in, look good. You know, you have that one shirtless scene, and you're going to say okay to having sex with a stranger, basically. And that is what is going to get, hopefully, our audience to be like, wait a minute, we're going to watch episode 2, right? We're going to watch these two teens fulfill the promise and fulfill the statement, right?
Define watch.
Dude, Paxton is older than I am.
Oh, actually?
Yeah,
he's older than I am.
Oh, no.
But I mean, for this to be the finale of our pilot, the last couple tastes you get, does it draw you in a little bit more of the idea of like, all right, this is what we're getting into as we progress the show and as we go into episode 2?
Yeah, I mean, I figured that there's a element of a crush brewing between her and Ben. That seems like something that feels pretty obvious that it's going to come up.
I'm glad you can see the obvious as well.
It's an enemies become lovers situation. Also, like, I love how in realistic high school this is, that like we're gonna hook up for literally no reason, and you're like, all right. Like, do you want to have sex with me? All right.
Sure.
That's it. It's high
all.
school. You don't need more of a reason than that.
It's a crush based on proximity because he failed a class and had to retake it. You know, who amongst us?
But I mean, that really is the end of this pilot. It ends with the idea of, hey, we've made a pact of sorts of, I'm going to have sex with you with no emotional attachment. And that's how we end our episode. I'm curious, as far as things that you loved about this pilot, we talked about a lot of different things, but was there anything that maybe you'd like to give a little bit more shine?
We didn't talk too much about the family dynamic in the sense with Devi and her mom, or Devi and her cousin Kamala. Kamala is pursuing a master's or doctorate degree nearby at Caltech, and is gorgeous to the point where she is luring like a siren luring sailors into the rocks. She is causing local men to plow into her recycling bins. That's not a metaphor. And we get a beautiful line of her mom saying, "This can't keep happening. The recycling bins can't take much more." I think like what we didn't touch too much on is like the family dynamic yet, and like there is a bit of there's a bit of like using everyone's heritage for their own processing of modern times, and then but also like with Kamala learning about her having a match back in India for as a husband, like you could immediately painting the picture and that this is not the way she wants to live her life, and it is like all right, that I'm excited for that conflict to come up. But yeah, I think the family deserves some more shine on this.
Max, what about yourself?
Short answer: I love Wisteria Lane being the setting for this household, and but I think it plays into that timeless, evergreen nature of you. This just feels like suburbia, and you don't have to be in Sherman Oaks because you recognize this street from TV shows for years and years and years. Slightly longer answer: I like that it's a show about grief without explicitly being about grief. I like that it's a show about modern versus traditional culture without explicitly being about that. I like that it's a show about like sex without it explicitly being about sex. It's not explicitly about any one thing. It just feels like TV.
As far as myself, I think that this is one of the cleanest expositions we've seen in a long time, as far as building everything we need to know about a character while still leaving room for, hey, you don't know absolutely everything, but you know as much as you need to going into the first day of high school. Like the scene of seeing Devi her parents refuse to eat at the barbecue because it's not vegetarian, and she's slamming down ribs. Like that's such a perfect little encapsulation of the idea of, being a first generation American in some instances. And I think that this show is taking on a very large challenge by trying to be like, hey, let's talk about like being a first generation American and to immigrant parents and what that may be like and feel like, and the issues that you might come across by doing so, and the weight that might be upon your shoulders by doing so as well. And that's really fun to see taken with, rather than a super serious note, be like, what if we made it a comedy as well, just so that everyone didn't feel a little bit upset about some of the upsetting things that might happen to folks, especially in 2020. But let's talk about wait a minute moments, things that caused you pause. Was there anything that you were like, not for me, and you'd like to talk about?
John McEnroe saying "serving a damn Luke." That was a really troubling line to hear from that man.
No, I love the fact that he like clearly did that in one take, and they weren't connecting it, or they weren't going to change it.
He was not going back to do any additional ADR for that.
For me, I think this show suffers a little bit from like the child speaking like a 35-year-old comedy writer speak. Of Devi's dialogue feels a little bit too middle-aged retrospective for me, or like a little too quippy. Whereas like you can, if you make the jokes more environmental, it becomes more natural. But yeah, I think she just like everything that the character is saying is like a little too perfect all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And my wait a minute moment is tech and drama people are meant to have romantic flings.
Right.
That's don't make that a bad thing.
It's the Jets and the Sharks.
That's literally supposed to happen. It's meant to be. That is high school, baby. Well, as far as in-flight questions, we talked a little bit about that. Carly from Indiana, thank you so much for your in-flight question. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this show. 4 seasons and 40 episodes. The show did come under fire by a bunch of publications for its representation for Indian and Jewish cultures, even being called anti-Semitic for the character of Ben Gross, to which I will say, as a Jewish boy who was a bit of a nerd and still is a bit of a nerd, fuck off. I think
nobody wants this felt more anti-Semitic than this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also came under fire because people are... Let's just say this. I think that there has come a point where we may or may not be a little bit too sensitive when someone says, I'm Jewish or we're Indian.
Agreed.
Also, listen, if Ben Gross is living in Sherman Oaks, he's not going to Sherman Oaks Public High School. We all know he's going to Harvard Westlake.
It's too far of a drive.
Yeah, this show really is not realistic. As far as viewership, the first season of this show had 40 million viewers on Netflix, which is pretty darn good considering that it is a teen-focused dramedy as it is. Also, fun fact for the two of you, since you have not watched more of this show, and I have watched a lot more of this show, while John McEnroe is the main narrator for this show, there are also episodes narrated by Andy Samberg and Gigi Hadid.
Whoa!
Let's talk about awards. 29 nominations and 8 wins. That includes 2 People's Choice Awards, but unfortunately, you will not see John McEnroe on a surfboard provided by the Teen Choice Awards. But, gentlemen, that is the history of the show. I don't want to finish
this episode.
Rich, it is your time for Game of the Week.
So I want to make it very clear, and I probably should have said this closer up top. I know we were 3 white guys talking about like a show that's about like an Indian American like teenager, and that the fact that Johnny McEnroe is the narrator in this is terrific, but it's not the entire show. That said, it's way easier for me to find trivia about John McEnroe than finding trivia about the experience of being an Indian American immigrant.
Yes, Mr. Deeds won 7 Oscars when it came out in 2001.
All right, I have 2 very, very brief John McEnroe questions. John McEnroe is name dropped by which rap group? A, Sugar Hill Gang. B, Cypress Hill. C, Wu-Tang Clan. D, House of Pain.
Cypress Hill?
Yeah, I thought it was Cypress Hill, but I might be wrong.
It's House of Pain.
Oh.
Yeah, he is name dropped in Jump Around. All right.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
John
That's
McEnroe's
true.
tantrums were used to inspire the acting choices made in which movie? A. Amadeus. B. Breakfast Club. C. Once Upon a Time in America. D. Good Morning Vietnam.
What B?
Breakfast Club.
I'm
Sure.
going to say Amadeus.
It is Amadeus. One of the characters watched a bunch of John McEnroe meltdowns to be Salieri.
That's amazing.
And thank you for playing Johnny Mac Trivia.
Well, gentlemen, as our flight is coming to a land fairly quickly, may I say, I have 2 questions for each of you. And the first is, based off the pilot and the pilot alone, are you going to give this show a episode 2 for the first time? Are you going to, just based off the pilot? And the second is, in this instance, we talked a little bit about the idea of teen dramedies, right? They're ever abundant. There seems to be a continuing stream of these coming about. We literally, when we were talking about doing this episode, we were like, let's pick from these 10 and just do one of them. So I'm curious if you think that maybe is the teen dramedy played out, or are shows like this necessary on streaming platforms or even on major network television?
I'll kick it off. I'm absolutely watching episode 2. I was sold from the moment Robin's dancing on my own, dropped as a boy, got out of the pool in slow motion. That's when I was sold. I think this captures the teenage dramedy genre better than a lot of things we've covered on this podcast. I think it has heart, humor, well-established characters and worldviews in given circumstances, and it's a show that I feel like is important for teens, but also feels like anyone can watch it and find things to enjoy in it. Like, you don't need to be a teenager to get it and dig it. As for more of this getting made, yeah, I think that it is important. There's not a lot in terms of youth representation on network right now. There's a lot as we get into sort of like this millennial Gen Z cusp kind of stuff coming out now, but I think that the teenage experience is an evergreen part of pop culture and of the TV landscape, and I think as long as you continue to find unique perspectives and stories to tell and angles to hit on, there will be a place for it.
Rich, what about yourself?
Jeff, you asked if I would watch episode 2. You could not be serious. Of course I'm watching episode 2. Yeah, I really did enjoy the show a lot. I want to see the character development here. Like, it feels like a lot of things are left up in the air with characters that could get progressively more interesting. And I think that's like a rare thing for a pilot to have. Whether for the teen dramedies, I think they're going to keep happening because they're basically talent incubators for all these studios. Like, look at the cast of Sex Education and look where they're all going to end up. Like, one is Doctor Who now, which is fucking insane. Yeah, I think it's just going to keep. I think it's going to keep happening. I think there's a lot of value in writing shows like this, and it keeps people hooked on Netflix and, you know, all these different streaming platforms in general.
Yeah, and for myself, yeah, I've watched episode 2 because I thought the pilot, the first time I watched it, was so good. And I can say after rewatching it 5 years later, I think that the pilot still is a great pilot. As far as these types of shows, I want to specifically commend this one. And that is because I think that it is really important to have shows that have that voice of, you know, the current youth, or like that speak to youth, that also parents can watch with their kids.
Right.
And this is one that I think has jokes for everyone from top to bottom. Right. It's why I think that, like, when I was a kid, my parents enjoyed watching Nickelodeon with me because they were like, oh, there's jokes for me in this? Hell yeah. And like,
right.
Why Disney is going back to straight animation, because that was a time where a parent could go and watch, give me a movie, Tarzan, and be like, oh yeah, there's jokes for me in this too. Like, that's awesome. And like, this is a good thing for me. So having media that the entire family can sit around and watch it and enjoy it together for different reasons is really, really powerful. It is a lesson to network execs to like maybe say like, how does, there's that joke in the God, what Christmas movie is it? In Scrooged, where they're like, how do we get the dogs and cats to watch TV? Right? Like, how do we get the entire family to watch TV together and everyone enjoy themselves? And this is really a good model for that. So yeah, I hope we see more stuff like this specifically as well. Well, gentlemen, that is our flight. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you are. Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me getting a degree at St. Doofus University. And you can
you took mine.
I'm so sorry. You can also find me on Instagram at Dan. I can't believe that's the first time that's happened. You can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find original sketch comedy from Max and myself at Dadwagon Comedy on TikTok.
Max, what about yourself?
You can catch me keeping it 100, trust, and on all things social media at Maxwell Sig.
Follow us on YouTube and you can see what Max just did and embarrassed himself in front of everyone.
And you can find me singing next to trash cans, acting like a human siren, hoping someone will crash into mine. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. You can find the TV Pilot's License anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also see our smiling faces on YouTube and find us on almost every social media platform at TV Pilot's License. If you have a question for the show or an in-flight question, you can submit those at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com. You can also leave us a call or shoot us a text message at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
I'm trying to trick a gay guy into going to Johnny Rockets with me.